Welcome to Jefferson Liberty Radio, the voice of the state of Jefferson in the Central Valley. I'm Matthew, as always, joined by Alan.
Hello.
How you doing, Alan?
Hey, I'm still upright.
That's great. Pat, still filling in for Aaron here. Pat, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Can you tell us about our next meeting?
I can. Next meeting will be Wednesday, November 14th. We will be discussing how our group will move forward with the state of Jefferson within Stanislaus County. Come on out and help us plan for the upcoming 2019 year. The meeting starts at 6:30 at Grizzly Rock Cafe in Turlock.
Thank you so much, Pat. This episode is sponsored by AL Certified Safe and Lock. AL's offers locksmithing services and alarm systems for a range of applications, including burglary, fire, tamper, medical emergencies, and much more. AL's has been locally owned and managed in Modesto for nearly 70 years, and with thousands of loyal and satisfied customers, you can be sure AL's will meet and exceed your needs. For more information, call 1-800-700-4780 or go to alsalarm.com. That's ALSALARM.com. Thanks so much to AL Certified Safe and Lock for sponsoring our show. We have fantastic guests coming up, so I'm going to turn it over to Alan for that.
Welcome to another edition of Jefferson Liberty Radio, the broadcast that digs down deep to get to the bottom to bring you on top of all the latest news. This is a podcast about election integrity. And for you listeners, this is being recorded on the day before the election. So this is kind of an interesting moment. And with us today, we have Colleen Britton, who is very involved with the Election Integrity Project, California. So, Colleen, we want to wish you thank you for joining us and for being a guest.
Well, it's my privilege to be here. I'm happy to be here with you.
Welcome, Colleen.
Thanks, Pat.
Colleen, a little bit on your background so that our listeners have a little knowledge on you. Could you give us a little background on your involvement with the Election Integrity Project, maybe even your involvement in events prior to involvement with election integrity?
Well, prior to election integrity, I was a high school teacher for about 25 years. And then in about 2010, I helped start the Vaca Valley Tea Party in Vacaville, California. And that was about October. And then we had an election. And shortly after that, I discovered that elections are important and we want them done right. And so early in the following year, 2011, I attended a national True the Vote summit in Houston. And that really kind of got me fired up about the importance of election integrity. We listened to some great speakers. John Fund was there, Andrew Breitbart, J. Christian Adams, people that had been working with this for a really long time. And it was very eye-opening. And I realized what a big problem it was and that it really needed the attention of more citizens. So that's how I kind of got started in the project.
Wonderful. Did you just go down to their office and say, hey, I'm here, I want to help?
Well, it was sort of like that. Actually, while we were at the conference in Houston, I actually met Linda Payne, who is the founder of Election Integrity, and she was just getting the group started there, wanting more information and knowing the right directions to start. So we met each other at that summit, and then a year later, for the 2012 election, she was starting groups all over the state, and that's when I really became involved in the Election Integrity Project. Was in the election of 2012, where we started forming teams pretty much over most of California.
Oh, very interesting. So the election of 2010, was that kind of the precipitating event that
Yes.
led to the beginning?
Yes, it was the election of 2010. And Linda and her group in Southern California volunteered to work at the elections, and just as poll workers and whatever, and poll observers, and what they saw there made them realize that there were things going on that shouldn't have been going on, and the only way to stop it is to get citizen involvement and to make our elections run the way they're supposed to run. So that's what precipitated her to get started on this, and I think we've all followed suit.
Wow, that's quite impressive. Are there any historical precedents that EIP has initiated? Is there anything in particular that EIP has become well known for since?
I think most of it, you could say, our goal is to getting national attention to the things that are the issues that are prevalent with every election, and we've been able to do that through what the volunteers have been doing, observing the polls from the very beginning of the election process, the day of elections, and then we have volunteers that go to the registrar's office and monitor the ballot processing, which is crucial. And the more that we have mail-in ballots, the more this ballot processing becomes a very, very important part of election observation. So, and one thing that we do as part of all of our observations is to write written reports, incident reports we call them, and those are compiled throughout the state, and those have been the foundation of finally some legal representation that we've been able to get in behalf of the citizens of California. And just this recently in December of 2017, finally we got Judicial Watch to file a lawsuit against Los Angeles County and the state of California for violation of the National Voter Registration Act. And they charge the failure to accurately maintain the voter rolls. And this is a huge issue, and we've been trying to get this resolved for years, just as individuals, but it's the long-term process that we have of citizen involvement that finally got the attention of organizations like Judicial Watch, and also in 2018, Landmark Legal took a look at all the work that we have accumulated, and they too have filed letters of complaint about California, and they filed that with the Department of Justice, the Homeland Security, and the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. So we're getting national recognition that we've got a problem, and it's bigger than just the people of California by themselves are having difficulty doing that. We need some clout from above and afar, and this push with Judicial Watch and Landmark Legal has been a huge step in the right direction. So one thing that just happened, I can share with you, that's kind of exciting, is that just this last Sunday, we got a notice that the U.S. Attorney in Southern District in Southern California has appointed an assistant U.S. Attorney to oversee any complaints of election fraud and voting rights abuses in this coming election. That would be tomorrow. So that is huge. Now we have federal eyes on our elections and ready, willing, and able to take note of any of the things that happen. So we're thrilled about that, and it's not an easy fix. It's going to be a long haul, but we've got some people in the right places now that are really making an effort to correct the situation. So we're pleased with where we're going.
That's really exciting, Colleen. Can you answer or I'm going to ask you a question. Now, you said that they're going to be looking at the elections. Is this just in California or is this nationwide? Okay. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up for me.
Well, that's all we got the notification of. They may be doing in other states, but they definitely are focusing on California, which we're thrilled. They couldn't pick a better place. So.
Oh, yeah.
So California is kind of the elephant in the room.
Oh, you got that right. Yeah. So absolutely.
That's very interesting. You know, that reminds me that there's a young man named Mark Mosier or Musier, I guess is the way you pronounce it.
Mark Mosier, yeah.
He's very, very actively involved in trying to correct election
absolutely. That's one of his
corruption.
Focuses, and boy, could we use some fresh blood in the Secretary of State's office.
There you go. So he is running. He's just to let everyone know that he is running for the Secretary of State for California.
Yeah, super important position.
Yes.
And while election integrity has to stay totally nonpartisan, there's been some issues with our current Secretary of State that I'll be happy to tell you about later on.
Well, we'll be asking you that question.
All right.
I'm looking forward to hearing that.
You'd like.
All right.
Okay. On past elections, what kinds of issues are you finding that has brought attention to you, the Election Integrity Project?
The elections haven't brought attention to us. We try to bring attention to the elections. I think that's our focus. And you don't have to look very far in the past. If you look at the June primary election, actually one of our election integrity observers, we had a single observer in Los Angeles County who happened to be observing and noticed that a lot of people were being turned away from the polls, and they weren't being offered provisional ballots. They weren't. They were just, sent away. They weren't able to vote. Well, it turned out that so she called the hotline, and they called the legal representatives that we have, who checked into it, and shortly thereafter, the Register of Voters in Los Angeles announced a glitch in their election procedures that had caused 118,522 names to be dropped off the voter roll. So those voters were totally disenfranchised. They were, at the end of the day, when he made that announcement, they were invited to go back to the polls because their names were on one list, but not on the list that were at the polls. So they chalked it up to a glitch, but it's kind of interesting that same glitch occurred in at least 6 other counties in California. So that's just one example, and thank goodness it was that one election integrity observer that caught that and made the public aware of it.
Now, did that poll watcher, that volunteer, did they make comment to the electioneering officials, or did they come to you and bring the complaint?
Okay, let me clarify one thing. With their election integrity observers, there's a difference between poll observers and poll watchers. Poll watchers are associated with a campaign, someone's campaign, political campaign. Poll observers, which we are we have no stake in the game. We're there to observe the election and to make sure that it follows the election code. That's our main objective, not any partisan thing. So that's the difference. But to answer your question, what she did was to call the hotline, which is an EIP representative. That representative contacted the register, got no response, and then they contacted lawyers in the state who contacted them and put a little pressure on it So that's the way that was resolved. But still, there were a lot of people who may have not voted because they got turned away. So that was, not a good day.
Boy, I wonder if that could be a scenario we could see even tomorrow.
Well, I'm sure we'll be looking for it.
Now, you're using volunteers as observers. Do you have observers in all the polls, polling places?
I wish we would. No, we don't. We have volunteer teams, throughout the state. We'd started out in 2012. We had, for the 2012 November election, I believe we had 2,100 observer volunteers in 34 of the 58 counties, which was a pretty good representation. This year, I'm not sure what the number is now, but it's considerably less than that. A lot of our volunteers have moved out of state, gotten old, or have other activities, so we're constantly in need of new people who see the importance of this and want them to get involved. So it's kind of late for this election to get trained for poll watching, but it's never too late to get trained to do the ballot processing observation training. That is a really good thing if you want to get your feet wet. We've got it's like an hour training. It's online, and it's excellent. You got some paperwork to do, and then they'll give you the manual. But it goes through what you need to look for at the Register of Voters office, and as you watch all the different phases of ballot processing, it's fairly involved, especially when you consider the processing of provisional ballots, where they have to verify the names, the addresses, and all those kind of things. So there's a lot to do, but that's something important that people can do even now, because they'll be processing ballots after the election all the way through the end of November. So.
Oh, that's why you can still get training and go down and watch the what's going on.
And the way for people to do that would be to go to our website where it says volunteer, and there's a place to volunteer for observers, but there's a little space down below where you can write a note, and you can put in there that you would like to volunteer to be trained for ballot processing, and they will get in touch with you and get you the information that you need to do that. So please do become part of the team. We need you.
Okay. Well, but vote counting starts immediately at 8:00 or 8:05 or something.
Yeah, the processing of the absentee ballots started about a week ago. So they start, I think, 10 days prior to the election. They start actually processing the absentee ballots. So ballot processing observers can start observing before the election, all the way through till it's completed and certified.
Yeah. Well, do you do any kind of promotion, trying to
advertise?
Advertise, but to get volunteers to come forth and consider this.
Well, this would be one place to do that.
This is the place. We talk to just about anyone we can talk to. We go to groups all over the state. I've been through down to Santa Cruz, up to Oroville and Sacramento and the mountains, and so and all of our volunteers will do the same. So it's an important message, and we need to get it out there, and we're willing to share wherever we're welcome. So.
Well, I have some other ideas, but I'll talk to you later about that.
Okay.
Colleen. I just thought of it, so.
Well, we're talking about observers, volunteers that are observing in polls. How do they get trained?
We train them. We have Ruth Weiss is our head of training and education. And they have a team that puts together a training manual and an issues handbook. And then we have a video presentation that goes along with that. And the focus of all the training is what is the election code for each phase of the election day, and is it being observed correctly, followed correctly? That's really important, because the election code is basically all that we have to protect the voter. And if it's not followed correctly, if someone, poll worker, thinks, oh, there's an easier way to do this, we can just do blah, 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 it may be more effective time-wise or something, but it doesn't meet the election code, and that code is designed to protect the voter. So all of our handbooks and stuff, I have issues that are found throughout the day, and they cite the election code that applies to that, and then they give some possibilities for resolution of the issue. So we hope that our observers will recognize a problem and then see a possible way of alleviating that by contacting the precinct inspector to get some clarification. Perhaps they didn't understand their role or the law or the procedures that they should follow. So we ask them to clarify their understanding of the job, and if they do that, then the issue is resolved right there, and then it's done, it's taken care of. So that's what we try to do as much as possible, is to smooth the waters where we see those, and then if that doesn't work, then we get help from the next level up and try and clarify that. Eventually, contacting the Register of Voters to have them contact the poll workers and resolve any issues that we see. So that's the way the process works. But we have pretty extensive training materials, and the training goes usually for about 3 hours or so. It was longer than that. We've kind of streamlined it, so it's not a marathon, but there's a lot of information to soak in.
What sorts of issues would a poll observer be instructed on looking for in an election at a poll?
Oh, everything from the way the poll is set up. Are the booths arranged so that to ensure the maximum privacy for the voter? Sometimes the poll workers will not follow a plan that gives maximum privacy to the voters. Sometimes it's the way the ballots are handled. If people are that are at the wrong precinct are just arbitrarily given a provisional ballot without trying to find their assigned precinct so they can vote with a regular ballot instead. There's a million issues. Let's see, I can go through my list here and just if there's electioneering, and this happens quite frequently. You have enthusiastic people that come to the polls and they want to wear their T-shirts for their candidates or their buttons, and that's against the law. They can't do that. So electioneering within 100 feet of the polls is forbidden. So that's one thing. Voter intimidation. There's all kinds of instances of that. Those are just some examples.
My goodness, I didn't realize.
I didn't realize that either.
It's pretty complex, but after you do this a little while, a few elections, you go, okay, there's a lot more to this than I thought.
Yeah. Right. I did look over your website a little bit this afternoon again, and that story you told of the lady down in Southern California who found those people being turned away at the. That story was on your site, and I was hoping you would tell that story. So I'm very glad for that. One thing I did I hadn't thought of though, Colleen, was when you do send in your ballot. This is just something I caught off that. your site today was that if you do send in your ballot and your signatures don't match, there are many different things that could happen with your ballot. Just even sending it through the mail.
Absolutely.
So,
yep,
that was an eye opener.
I think the Secretary of State was sued because in the 2016 election, there were 45,000 ballots that the signatures did not match. They did not count those ballots, which if somebody else signs your ballot, you don't want it counted. But if it was you, you want to be notified that your ballot didn't count.
Right. And your signatures can change. That was one of the things that the site did say, that your signature does change over time. It's just it just happens.
Right. I have a friend who went to the registrar's office for something and checked her status. Anyway, she discovered that the last two elections, her ballots weren't counted because her signature didn't match, because she had a hand injury and her signature had changed. So she obviously filled out a new signature card.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think people pay that much attention to it. They sign, or they they decide to change their signature, make it fancy or whatever. But those little things make a big difference. And now they use your driver's license signature and send those over also for verification to the registrar's office. So unless you signed a voter registration card, a physical card, they probably will be using your DMV signature. So, and when you write that with your finger, it's not really quite how you sign with a pen either.
Right.
Well, that's for sure.
Thing about the absentee ballot. Well, there's a lot of things about absentee ballots, but if they get damaged, then those have to be remade. When I say remade, I mean what they do is they take the damaged ballot that you wrote on. They'll take it to a room, and then two other people, it has to be two people, will copy how you voted on a ballot that isn't bent up or crunched or whatever, and they remake that ballot. So that's another realm of possible maneuvering, manipulation, I guess.
That's a perfect term. Excellent.
So that's another area that should be observed, is the remaking of ballots. And I was talking with Linda Payne the other day, in Ventura County. They're using machines to process all the absentee ballots, and they were having issues with those machines. And they were actually crunching up thousands of ballots, and those, it's more than just one or two that have to be remade. This was like the whole day's ballot processing thing. And apparently this went on for a couple of days. So that could be pretty impressive in terms of numbers, and time consuming to remake those. And then are they remade accurately is another concern.
Well, and the amount of probably overtime that we're paying people to do that.
Yep. So there's a lot of issues.
Lots of issues, yeah.
Well, one of the things that intrigued me when you were talking about what observers are supposed to do, they could actually cause some an uproar with the officials at the polling place.
Oh, no. That is not in our job description.
Okay, so if they
see... One thing that we kind of want to be more of a fly on the wall. It's one of the, in bold type, do not interfere with the voting process. So if there's a line of voters and you see something happening, you have to wait until there's a pause where you have an opportunity to go talk with the poll inspector. You cannot interfere with the election, period. That's just kind of the cardinal rule. So no, you do not make a scene. That's not why we're there.
Okay, so you'd go to the poll inspector.
You have an opportunity to talk with the instructor or the inspector, and you do it and then get his attention. But you have to wait for the opportune time.
But even with the inspector, you have to be somewhat careful, diligent.
Yeah. You don't want to tread on toes. You want to let them know what you think and have them confirm yay or nay, and then take it from there.
Yeah.
So we're there to enhance the election, make it better for everybody. So
you mentioned that we're supposed to be, or observers are supposed to be a fly on the wall. And everybody that comes in as an observer has a cell phone. Are they allowed to?
Phones or cameras within the voting area at all. You cannot take any pictures 100 feet, within 100 feet, just like electioneering. No cameras.
Okay.
I'm sure you cover all of this in the training. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. That's part of the training.
Well, I'm certain that those that are listening to this podcast, they're certainly all encouraged to go down and volunteer at.
But something else that I would like to, because it is the day before Election Day, and people may listen to this and then go vote or whatever. If you see anything that you think is of a concern or an incident that you would like to report, if you go on the Election Integrity Project California website, there are citizen incident reports there that you can download. Write whatever it is that happened to you, that you saw, that you have concerns about, and there's an address to mail it in. And I believe it's right to Landmark Legal, so they want to know what's happening. And without citizen written reports like that, then all these things are just hearsay. So these written reports signed by the people that are writing them become important testimony to help our legal cause, to get a better picture of what's really going on in California elections.
Yeah.
So, but that citizen incident report is something to look for. If you see anything, or if somebody else tells you about something, refer them to that page also.
Okay, very good. Another thing, does the Election Integrity Project get at all involved with voter registration and the rolls that registration rolls?
Kind of checking the rolls. We have what we call a data team. I call them kind of computer geeks. No, they're not, but they love numbers and they love comparing things, which is not my bailiwick, but thank God we've got them. But they do. They go to as many counties as they can, and buy a disc from them with all the voter rolls on it, and then compare those to different databases, and look for discrepancies and things like that. So yes, they do that. It's expensive though. Some counties charge up to $500 for each one of those things. So that cost varies between the counties, and that's a cost that Election Integrity has to pay for.
And,
and of course you're relying pretty much entirely on volunteer donations, aren't you?
Not pretty much, entirely.
Ah.
So yes, we in 2017, I believe 2017, we became a 501c3, which has been a blessing, because that means the donations are tax deductible. And so we're happy to take donations, because there's the materials that we hand out to our observers are expensive to print and mail, and just the cost of doing business with the websites and like I said, the data processing and getting those rolls back. It's just a cost. It's an expensive endeavor, so we can use donations whenever possible.
And so if one wants to contribute to this cause, they can just go to your website and...
Yes. Absolutely. There's a donation thing right there on the website.
Now, what actually is the web address?
If it's like www.eip-ca.com.
Okay.
Is it com or is it org?
It's com.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So, folks, that's www.eip-ca.com.
Yep, that's it. Or you can Google Election Integrity Project California, and it should come right up there at the top. So,
I think that's how I found it.
yeah, good old Google.
Yeah, absolutely. When an observer sees a discrepancy in the voter rolls, they report that to election integrity.
You mean someone on the in the voter rolls itself?
Yes.
Okay. Well, observers don't observe that usually unless you're checking the rolls. But if you see a problem, then you notify the register of voters that it looks like you've got 2 John Does here that are registered at the same address or whatever. And it's their responsibility to check that out. And they do that by sending cards to those people to see if there's really 15 people that live at this address or, whatever it is. But that's the register's responsibility for keeping the list, clean. And that's an ongoing project because it takes time for those cards to go out. You get a response back, and then whatever. So then it takes a long time to do that. But keeping those rolls clean is an important job because the more names that are on the rolls that aren't really regular voters, that just creates more opportunity for fraud.
Yeah, I know when Mark Moser's been going around and to the different counties, and I remember one particular, he went to a graveyard and found people that had been dead for 50, 75, 100 years that were still voting.
Yes, yeah.
That's obvious voter fraud.
Oh, absolutely, yep.
So when not an observer, what do you call them? A data...
the data processor or
the data processor?
Analyst, I guess you call it, the data analyst, yeah.
The data analyst reports that to the registrar. The registrar is supposed to clean that up, if you will. Yeah,
and that's my understanding is like the registrar in Los Angeles County, among others, has not been doing that. That's there for the lawsuit against him for not maintaining those, clean voter rolls. So.
Yeah, well, it's just hard to believe. I know Mark even went to a big high-rise office building and found that there was something like 50 people registered to vote at that commercial building.
Yeah, which is a no-no. You're supposed to be registered at your place of residence, which is not a business. So that right there is a problem. So there's many. We have a big room for improvement here.
Yeah, we certainly do.
And you have the DMV and the non-citizen driver's licenses and that whole bailiwick that started all kinds of things that affect our elections that we can do very little about without change.
And that brings up the question of, you mentioned earlier that you go to Landmark Legal, and there was another one, Judicial Watch.
Judicial Watch, yeah.
Yes.
They're representing Judicial Watch is representing election integrity. We're one of the plaintiffs in their case against the state of California and the Register of Voters in Los Angeles.
So does that go before the state court, or does it go before a federal court?
I can't answer that. I don't know the answer to that. I know that it's supposed to, that suit is supposed to come to trial in this December sometime. I thought it was around the first week in December, but I don't know exactly when, and I don't know if it's state court or if it's federal court. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay.
It would be federal but I don't know. That's above my pay grade.
I can understand that. Well, so whenever you come across an issue, those are the two entities that you go to for legal help, for bringing a case, or for legal
we have
investigation.
other lawyers within the state that answer questions for us and are kind of on call once in a while. But law firms and legal representation is incredibly expensive, and so it's we have stuff that we can't do anything with because nobody is ready to prosecute it. So it takes money to bring something to trial. And so these two, Judicial Watch and Landmark Legal, we're pleased that they have gone to the lengths that they have. So,
yeah, you haven't gone to Pacific Legal, or was it Pacific Justice?
Justice, yeah. No, it's not that. They don't handle that kind of a case.
I see. Okay.
Good to know.
Well, Pat, you had a question that you wanted to hold off to the end here.
I did. So we are recording this the day before the election. December 6th is the election. What are you going to be doing tomorrow, Colleen? Could you give us a rundown, or can you?
I'm going to be the official hotline person for Solano County, so that's what I'll be doing. And we have observers teams that will be going out in our county, and then when they see an issue, they will call me, and we'll take it from there. So
does each county have?
Well,
does each county have a representative like you, or a hotline taker, if you will?
No, they don't. It's a volunteer group, and they have more in the Southern California, and we've got kind of on-call people for counties that don't have anything going, but it's we're few and far between up here in the north.
Yeah, I can understand that. We don't have near the population that Southern California has.
Yes, yeah.
Well, Colleen, golly, are there any other issues that we haven't covered with Election Integrity Project that you'd like to bring forth to our audience?
I could probably talk to you all night about nitty-gritty stuff, but again, I just want to remind people that if they're interested in getting started in this at this late date, that to check out the ballot processing observation training and do that on the website. Sign up for that, volunteer for it, and someone will send you the links and the information that you need to do that. So that would be a really valuable thing to get started on. As we do more like the vote centers there were 5 counties that went to vote center this year in June, and more will be going to that model of voting in 2020. It means more and more mail-in ballots. In Sacramento, they did vote by mail ballots they mailed them to every registered voter in the county. That's huge. And that's a lot of absentee ballots out there. So the ballot processing is going to become primary. There'll be fewer polls to observe and more ballots to process. So our process for observing is going to be changing as our election systems change. So that's something to consider, and I hope everybody will get involved.
Do you think that elections are going to become more absentee ballot focused rather than poll focused?
At seems to be the trend year by year, a higher percentage every year, and I'm sure that that's what the powers that be would like, to have us all eventually all mail ballots, but it's probably not the best thing. So all I can say is it's probably coming, sink or swim. So we want to make the best of it.
Yeah, I can understand.
I have one more question for you, Colleen. If you could have one wish that would help would help the voting process, can you think of one thing that you would like? What would you wish?
Informed voters.
Very good. I love it. Good.
Well, it takes two to tango in that arena.
Oh.
You can do all you want to try to inform voters, but getting them to actually pay attention is another whole, that's an issue that's really tough.
Well, one thing that I think we have come to the conclusion is that voting is very, very important, and getting this right, how important that is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's paramount important. So yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that schools anymore are promoting the importance of voting. And I see that in my grandchildren. So that's kind of a disappointment on my part.
I'm happy that all my grandchildren have voted.
Awesome. Very good. Well, my
Good
grandchild's not there yet, so.
Yep. So that's.
Well, with this grandma, she will be voting and voting. I will.
Yeah, you're going to
vote. I will help her.
Vote and vote often.
And her mom is very good at that too. Yeah.
Very good.
Well, Colleen, you've been a real joy to talk to, and you've been very informative, and we certainly thank you for your participation.
Well, the pleasure is all mine, and I hope to see a lot of your listeners on our volunteer list. So.
Oh.
Well, we'll have them mention their name to you when they get on the line and register to train.
That sounds perfect. Very good.
So.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you very much.
Take care.
All the best tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
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 Thank you so much to Colleen for taking time out of her schedule to talk to us, especially right before a busy election day tomorrow. So we really appreciate the time that she took to come talk to us. And now we have Pat coming to us with the upcoming events for Stanislaus Concerned Citizens.
Here's a list of the meetings that Stanislaus Concerned Citizens for the for the rest of the year, I guess. Wednesday, November 14th, we will discuss how our group will move forward with the state of Jefferson for Stanislaus County. Come on out and help us plan the upcoming 2019 year. The meeting starts at 6:30 at Grizzly Rock Cafe in Turlock. On December 5th, where do you fit in for the Stanislaus Concerned Citizens for the state of Jefferson? What you can do to help Jefferson become reality. We will be discussing how you can share the state of Jefferson information, how to gather signatures, because that is still very important, and where to find the informative videos on the state of Jefferson. On December 12th, again, starting at 6:30 p.m. at Grizzly Rock, we will have any Jefferson updates that may have come up, and then at 7 p.m. we will have Jake Winger, a former MID board member and a local farmer. Jake is very knowledgeable about the California water issues. You won't want to miss that meeting with Jake. We will have our Christmas party. We are in the planning stages of that, so more information will be coming soon. We are also planning for some Fly It Fridays and Sign It Saturdays. Look for these events on the Facebook page, our email site, and our website. And just a reminder, we'd like you to RSVP if you come to the meetings. That's www.stanislausconcernedcitizens.org. And for the Jefferson Liberty Radio website is jeffersonlibertyradio.com. And that's the events for this upcoming, for the rest of the year.
Thanks so much, Pat. If you're interested in sponsoring our show, you can email us at sponsors@jeffersonlibertyradio.com. We would love the support. We would also love to hear from you, our listeners. Email us at feedback@jeffersonlibertyradio.com or via our website, again, jeffersonlibertyradio.com. We'd love to hear your questions and your comments, your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes if you aren't already, or your podcast player of choice. Leave us a 5-star review. We would really appreciate it, and it really helps our ratings. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, even YouTube, Google Play, and alternative media such as BitChute and Gab. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Jefferson Liberty Radio, and we'll catch you next episode.